Hello, friends. Happy Thursday. If you are here live and you can see my face and my slides, will you let me know in the chat, please? Okay, we are just going to go ahead and we're going to get started here. It is day 3 of the masterclass. We have made it. That is so exciting. I love what we are talking about today so much. So let's just go ahead and get started. Let's go. Today, we are going to learn what got us here isn't going to get us there. So it's time to switch it up. We have to essentially change the software a little bit, upload a new version. That doesn't mean we're going to scrap everything, but if we continue to play by the rules that got us here, they're not going to allow us to get us where we want to go. So, how we're going to do that? We're going to talk about the strategies that once worked, why they're no longer serving us. Quick recap for those of you who were not able to join us live yesterday for day 2 and haven't had a chance to watch the replays yet. Also, as of the time I signed off yesterday, there are 10 incredible new women who raised their hand to join the masterclass. So my guess is they haven't had a chance to take a look at the recaps yet. So here we go. Yesterday, we talked about the wake up call every high achieving woman gets in midlife. We normalized what we are experiencing in midlife. We're kind of all going through the exact same thing. I mean, we really talked about how universal the midlife experience is, which hopefully validated some of the feelings that you've been having and the questions that you've started asking yourself. And I gave you a whole lot of data to back it up. There were so many studies that we talked about, a lot of statistics, a lot of data to back up what we're feeling. So when anybody says, oh, you're just imagining it, you can tell them absolutely not. Lots of data to back it up. We talked about how our conditioning and the way we were raised is impacting the way we're feeling in midlife. So we talked a lot about societal programming and conditioning and how that is feeding into what we're feeling and how we're showing up and how that makes us feel like maybe something's wrong with us that we need to fix in midlife. We talked about identity shifts and changing roles and relationships and why the change in daughter, mother, wife, coupled with our physical changes, why that all seems to come together and feel so profound in midlife. And we ended by talking about what a crisis is and why midlife isn't a crisis. It's more of an opportunity, but it can become a crisis if you choose to stay stuck in the crisis cycle. So with that, let's move on to day 3. I completely changed what day 3 is going to be about last night because I thought that I looked back over everything that we have covered in day 1 and day 2. Day 1, we talked a lot about why we believe that what we're feeling in midlife is something that we need to fix. And it has a lot to do with all of the marketing and the messaging that we are surrounded by every day in all sorts of areas, whether that related to our body and what we were putting into it or how we were exercising it, or, we're looking too old in our face. So we've got to get the anti-aging cream. We need to color our hair so that it's not gray. We talked all about the things that we're taught that we should fix. And then yesterday, we talked a lot of statistics, didn't we? I gave you a lot of information, a lot of statistics, a lot of numbers. If you are an accountant or a statistician, you probably loved yesterday. If you didn't, those numbers might feel a little overwhelming. So instead of giving you more data and more statistics and more frameworks today, I thought I would take a step back, not overload you with more information, but really encourage you that now is it's time for us to start making some decisions. look at how we have made decisions in the past, get comfortable with trusting ourselves again so that we can make some decisions going forward. And that has nothing to do with more numbers, more statistics, more data, more facts. So we're going to just approach today a little different. And because of that, you're going to notice that the slides are a little less full of information. I want to give you a little bit of a breather today to feel a little bit more in your body and let some of these messages land without having to read all the numbers and the facts and the figures. And so with that, let's get started. Because we have looked at so many frameworks and facts and figures, and we did some midlife math yesterday, it occurred to me last night that you might be thinking, okay, Lori, I get it. I understand why I'm feeling this way in midlife. I understand that everyone around me is probably feeling the same thing, but what should I actually do with all of this information? I mean, having information is great, but what do I do with it? Is it just supposed to make me feel better that everyone else is having the same feeling too? And because we haven't really talked about it, do I have to figure out what I'm doing all alone? And the answer is no. Day one, I gave you a sneak preview about the Best Life Lab. And I mentioned that it's a guided coaching experience for high achieving midlife women. It's where we get really clear on what we want. We start making aligned actions towards our best life. And it's a community. So what we are doing in there is very supportive, and that is completely intentional. And I made it that way because I didn't have that kind of support when I needed it most. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I came to found the School of Midlife today, how I came to create the lab and the other coaching containers that I have created for midlife women, because I think it's important for you to have this context. I think it is important for you to understand that even when you are wildly successful, I was an award-winning attorney, and we're going to get into that in a minute, but unless you know what you want, why you want it, you can be successful and still feel like you need to be fixed, that something's wrong with you. So let's dive into my story a little bit, and we're gonna go all the way back to fifth grade. I know that, don't worry, I don't have a slide for every year of my life or every decade of my life, but I think it's important for you to understand why this is so important to me, why I've created this container, and why I know that it works, because I was there and needed this support and I didn't get it. Fifth grade, I declared I was going to become an attorney. And I decided that because I grew up in a house very middle class, probably low middle class, but we didn't actually know it at the time. You know, it wasn't like we were worried about food on the table, or at least I wasn't. I don't know if my parents were or not, but they fought about money a lot. And I always knew when it was like, is it payday Friday or not? Because on payday Friday, we would go out for dinner. We'd probably usually go out for pizza. When it wasn't payday Friday, we would a lot of times have like hamburger helper and, hamburger helper. And when I was watching them, they were fighting all the time about money. And I decided in fifth grade, I did not want a career. I didn't want a job. I didn't want to grow up and have to worry about money. I didn't want to fight with somebody about it. And I don't like blood. So I decided medicine is out. You know what? I'm going to become an attorney. That to me sounded like something that smart people did. It felt like a respectable occupation, a respectable career. And all of the attorneys I knew were driving nice cars. They lived in beautiful homes. And I didn't see them. When I was at my friend's house, if they were attorneys, it didn't seem like they were fighting about money. So in my fifth grade, my 10-year-old mind, I was like, I'm going to be an attorney. That's going to solve everything for me. And from that point forward, everything I did I went to college, I got a degree, I went to law school. Everything I did was to become an attorney. And 10-year-old Lori, this whole idea that she had of being an attorney and completely making it in her career was to be a partner in a large law firm. I was an attorney for 20 years. In that 20 years, I was an associate at a litigation firm. I pretty quickly realized that I didn't want to do litigation. So from there, I went in-house at a corporation, which is where I started doing real estate work. I then moved, I was recruited away to go to a different corporation. I stayed there for 11 months. I call it my pregnancy term. From there, I went back to the first corporation. Then I was recruited away to work in private practice. Then I became an attorney in a small boutique law firm. Then I had my own practice for a while. And I finished my law practice at this large super regional firm. There was a time in my career when I was literally like, I must be a job whore. Why do I keep changing jobs? And looking back on it, it's easy for us to hindsight's 2020. Even Steve Jobs said you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back. Looking back, I kept changing jobs because what I thought practicing law would be like, or what I thought I would feel like once it wasn't at this job, so it must be at the next job. I feel like I don't love what I'm doing. I love my clients. I like the work that we're doing, but I don't love my job. So it must be this job, which means what I'm looking for must be at the next job. So I kept changing jobs, hoping that at some point I wouldn't suffer through a case of the Sundays. I would love going to work every day. I would also feel a little bit more comfortable in my skin. What I mean by that is, as an attorney, especially doing what I was doing high dollar, very complex commercial real estate transactions all over the country. Oftentimes, I was the only woman in that room. So we've got other attorneys, we've got brokers, we've got lenders. Oftentimes, we have city or county officials. And most of the time, I was the only woman, which meant I had to put my big boy pants on to, get a room at the table. And oftentimes somebody would say, hey, can you please order us lunch or get coffee or take notes for the meeting? And it wasn't because they needed somebody to do that. They're looking around and they're like, well, she's a woman. She can do that for us. So it was like I had this chip on my shoulder that I had to prove myself, that I had to be this bulldog attorney, even when it didn't feel totally right with who I was. So I just kept switching jobs. And then I finally land the big one. I'm an attorney in a large super regional firm, and I am right on the verge of joining the partnership of that firm. So this is literally the job that I have worked my entire career for. This one right here. And at the very end of the partnership admission process, it's a 2-year process. The last thing you do is you go to your partnership admission interview. And it is exactly like you would picture it. It is in a corner conference room at a high-rise building, floor to ceiling windows, a big mahogany table in the middle with 16 of those black leather high back chairs. There are 15 partners and me. Okay. We're in this meeting. They're asking me all sorts of questions about my career and my job, what I've done, who I work with, the types of things I like to do, all of these things. And at the very end, they asked me a question that, again, looking back, I didn't know at the time, but I did know that it had a pretty profound effect on how I move forward. They asked me, how will your job change if you are lucky enough to be invited to join the partnership? And I'm a verbal processor. So I sit there and I'm like, well, I'm already running your commercial real estate program for the Boise office. I'm already mentoring young associates. I'm already bringing in a business to not only support my book of business, big. So I'm supporting the entire team with the billables that are coming out of the business that I'm developing. I said, I'm already acting as if a partner. So I think the only thing that's really, there's two things that are going to change. Number one, my title. I'm going to go from being of counsel to partner. So that's just going to make it easier for me to bring in new business because everyone wants to work with a partner. And two, I'm going to make more money. The way I'm compensated is going to change. And I thanked them and I left and I flew home and I could not get that question out of my mind. How will your job change if you're lucky enough to join, if you're lucky enough to be invited to join the partnership? And 2 weeks later, I went into the administrative partner's office and I said, I'm going to make this really easy on the partnership admission committee. I am withdrawing my name from consideration for partner and I'm leaving the firm. And I had no backup plan. I gave them 4 weeks notice because I felt like that was the responsible thing to do. I think I billed an average of 12 hours a day in that last month that I was there because I wanted everything to be, I didn't want to leave them in a lurch. I certainly didn't want to abandon my clients, but I just knew there was something different for me because never in my life had I done anything just because of money. And I wasn't about to start now. And I kept thinking, but you don't even like your job. Like you suffer through a case of the Sundays almost every single day. So how is making more money going to solve that? And I left with no backup plan, which looking back seems a little, I used to think I was risk averse, and I actually don't think that now because there are big things that I've done in my life that have required me to take some risks, to take a jump when I didn't know if there was going to be a net there to catch me. Leaving my job with no backup plan was one of those things. And when I left and I had no backup plan, there were also no resources for me to consult to figure out, well, what the hell am I going to do now? I pretty quickly realized that I needed to make money somehow. I landed in brokerage, which was fantastic. I loved it. Same industry, different part of the deal, much better part of the deal for me. But I was also amazed at how many women reached out to me from all over the world on LinkedIn and they said, I saw you change careers. How did you do that? And what I realized was there was nothing out there for women in midlife who want something different than we have. We don't know what it is. And there was nothing to help us figure that out. It took me quite a few years after that day of saying I'm leaving the law to realize that there was nothing wrong with me. I mean, for a long time, I just thought, you know what? Maybe I just didn't find the right law job. But looking back, I realized that there still was nothing wrong with me. It wasn't the law. It wasn't me. Nothing was wrong there. It was just that I was making decisions about my life, big life decisions based on what I should want in life, what was expected of me, what 10-year-old Lori wanted in her life. And I hadn't taken the time to ever take a step back and say, is this actually what you want? Sure, you wanted it when you were 10, but is this still what you want? Is this still the kind of life that you want to lead? I had never actually thought that I should ask myself that I should check in with myself. I just knew what was the next thing I was supposed to want in that career. I don't know if any of you can resonate with this, but we get on this track of This is what I'm supposed to do next. I have to do this next to be successful. This is the next job or the next challenge. That's where I'm headed. And unless we take a step back and say, but is that really the direction I want to go in? Then we're just going to keep doing the thing and expecting a different result. I don't think I'm being over dramatic when I say if I had some sort of resource, a place to go, a place where I was supported, where I could slow down my thoughts, where I could actually reflect on what I wanted and then make some aligned decisions from that point, I could have saved myself years, years. I would have left the law much before years before I did. I would have gone in a different direction, not because I wasn't really good at what I did, but it wasn't fulfilling to me. It wasn't bringing me satisfaction. It wasn't making me happier. Sure, the very high paycheck I had that, I got every 2 weeks, that was great. But I also knew that there had to be something more out there for me, that there has to be another way to make money. What I'm doing in life, how I'm spending my time, it can't just be about money. There's got to be something else there. I need some fulfillment from what I'm looking for. If there was something like the lab, I'm telling you, I would have saved years. I could have saved myself years. I know I mentioned it on Tuesday. I want to really give you kind of a rundown of what the best life lab is so that you have an opportunity to join us. I'm going to invite you to join us. This is what it is. It is a group coaching experience for high achieving midlife women who are done trying to fix themselves. We already talked about there's nothing to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with you. The only reason you think that you need to fix something is marketing. It's what they've been telling us about who we are and what we must do to take up space in the world. You don't need fixing. You just need to understand that it's time for you to start living your life clear on what it is you want. We have to start trusting ourselves again to make decisions that are right for us, even if it makes no sense to anybody else, even if it's not what we should do. And we have to start moving in the direction of our best life with intention. It's not just going to happen to us. We're not just going to automatically wake up one day and realize, you know what, we're there. In the lab, you're going to get clear on what you actually want in this season of life. Just like me, if I would have known in my 40s what I wanted, not what 10-year-old Lori wanted, I could have saved myself years. Day one, we did that Magic Squares worksheet, right? The life grid. I don't want to waste any more of my time checking off boxes on the life grid without something that is meaningful to me. I don't want to just live another year on repeat. I want to get clear on what I actually want, and I want to get doing that now. And my guess is you probably do too. We're going to also redefine success on your terms. So many of us were raised with this idea that success is what is your job title and how much money do you make? And many of us have been very successful and we have had big paychecks, we've had big job titles, and yet we still feel like there's something missing. Let's figure out what that missing piece is so that you don't feel guilty anymore for not wanting the big paycheck and the big job title. Let's get you aligned to what it is that you actually want and what success means to you. And let's do that in a way that you can check in with yourself and know exactly that that's right for you, because you won't be second guessing yourself. You won't be crowdsourcing everyone else's opinion. Have you ever gotten really excited about something and then you actually ask somebody's opinion on it and it's kind of like they almost throw a wet blanket on you? What if you actually were at the point where you didn't have to second guess your choices? You just knew that they were right for you and you did them and you stuck by them. It is such a liberating feeling. Trust me. We're going to stop living the same year on repeat. We're going to start living intentionally. I just talked about that life grid. We don't get any extra boxes. We have to start actually living intentionally now. We're going to learn to trust ourselves again. This is the biggest thing I think that midlife women don't realize is that we have outsourced our decision making. We have let other people tell us what we need to do. We have let other people tell us what we should want. We've let other people tell us how we should show up. And because we've done that, our decision-making muscle, it needs to be worked out a little bit more. It's not as strong as it used to be, and we need to strengthen that. Once we're able to trust ourselves again, then we can get into aligned action. And that, my friends, is where you're going to feel that fulfillment and success and happiness that has fulfillment, satisfaction, not the other S word, and happiness that has been eluding us, that we've been trying to chase in all of these other different ways, just thinking, you know what, I'll be happy when. And we're going to get out of that someday loop. Okay, when the time is right, or someday, or when the kids leave the house, or after retirement, whatever we're pushing off, we're going to stop that. We're going to actually get into alignable action. And the other thing I want to reassure you, when some women here get into alignable, intentional action, they think, I've got to blow up my whole life. I have to start over. All of my important relationships, those are going to go. I've got to change my job. I've got to move to a new city. No, not unless you want to. Most of the women who come into coaching, these are high achieving, high performing midlife women. They've been wildly successful in their career up until now. They realize that they're only they're 65 or 70% of the way there. They just need some help with their decision making, figuring out what they want. We can get you there without burning it down, without hurting all those relationships that you're worried about. One of the things that I love the most about the lab is what happens with women after they come through coaching. And these are things that are really can be hard to describe, but it's one of those things, like, you know it when you feel differently. So you stop feeling like something is wrong with you. You stop feeling like something is wrong with you, and you realize that maybe what I'm feeling right now, this kind of, I'm feeling a little off, I'm a little angsty, that might just be what midlife feels like. And there's nothing wrong with me, and there's nothing wrong with that. And with that information, I feel validated. I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be to take the next step. You stop overthinking, constantly overthinking and second guessing yourself. Let me ask you this. When it's time for you to make a big life decision, do you make a very long pro-con list and then you sit with that maybe for days or weeks, or you ask everybody else's opinion about what it is that you should do? Let's bring some of that decision making in-house. Let's bring it back to us. Let's get out of our heads and the overthinking and bring it back into, how does this decision make me feel? That's what you get on the other side of coaching. You stop going through the motions and start living with intention. You stop outsourcing your decisions. You stop overcommitting. I've noticed from a lot of my clients that when things get tough or they're feeling a little off, they add more to their to-do list. Maybe they don't want to have a tough conversation. Maybe they feel badly about telling somebody no. There is a reason that when they feel out of control or they feel like something's off in a certain area of their life, they just get really busy. That, I'm going to tell you, that is not a way to solve the issue. In fact, what we need to do the opposite of that. We need to take a step back, stop overcommitting to everything, stop getting busier, stop adding more to our to-do list, and actually start protecting our time and energy by having the tough conversations, saying no when we mean it, not saying yes when we mean no, but actually focusing on what we want to do, who we want to be, how we want to live. And we don't do that by putting more things on our calendar. And then you're going to stop waiting for someday. You aren't going to stop it. You are going to get into action in the most beautiful way. And then you're going to wonder, what took me so long? Why did I wait this long? And I'm going to tell you, you weren't ready then. But my guess is you're probably ready now. The fact that you raised your hand and signed up for a masterclass to figure out how to feel like yourself again in midlife, that tells me you're ready. I want to assure you, though, that the lab is not about motivation. You can get motivation and inspiration everywhere. This is not about fixing yourself. You do not need to be fixed. What living your best life inside the Best Life Lab, it's all about living a life that's true to who you are now, who you are in this season of life. When we're inside the lab, we're going to do a lot of things. We're going to learn how to ask better and more honest questions. You may have heard that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. We're going to start asking ourselves some deeper questions, and we're going to allow the space for us to answer them honestly. Not how we think we should answer them, not what we think is expected of us, but how do we actually feel? What is our actual body felt answer to that question? So we're going to ask better questions. We're going to be honest with our answers. Because it's a lab, we're going to run these kind of small real life experiments where you get to play and you get to experiment with new ways of showing up and thinking and doing and being. And because it's a lab, you might start in one direction and then you realize, you know what? I've honed my decision-making muscle and I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to make this decision. No problem. You'll be completely supported in the lab. We're going to run these little experiments. We're going to let go of the old scripts, the expectations that everyone might have of us, and all of those shoulds. What should I be doing? How should I be showing up? Should I be farther along in my life? What should I be doing? We're going to scrap that. And in its place, we're going to start noticing what actually feels good to us in our body. Because what a lot of us struggle with is we have very smart brains. They are working overtime all the time, and they are constantly thinking about what they should be thinking about. So our body tells us what decision we should be making, and our brain gives us all the reasons that is not the right way. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to get in the lab, we're going to work on our decision making, and we're going to learn to notice what actually feels good to us, not just what looks good on paper. I want to assure you, though, that this container is not about just doing more things for the sake of doing more things. That's not it at all. In fact, most of the time when we start doing things differently, when we start doing them with intention, most of my clients realize that they actually have more time available in their day and their week because they're focused on what really matters to them. They're not adding more to their calendar to feel busy and accomplished or to avoid having tough conversations. They're actually more aligned with heading in the direction and spending time on the things that feel good to them. So this isn't about doing more, it's about doing things differently. There are 4 phases of how we approach everything in the lab. They can be best described by curiosity, clarity, courage, and confidence. But at their root, at the foundation of every single phase, is this idea of permission. So for so many of us, for so many of our years, we have looked outside of ourselves to get permission to do anything. I mean, think about it. You probably had to ask permission to go to the bathroom in school. May I please go to the bathroom? May I please be excused from the table? We have been asking permission for a very long time. And it's time that we finally understand that we can trust ourselves. We can give ourselves permission. We don't have to go and look for anybody else to do it. So, phase one, curiosity. That is permission to ask ourselves some new questions. This is where we're inviting you to get curious and ask some of those deeper questions that maybe you haven't asked before, like, who am I in this season of life? What's next for me? Is this it? Like, I've worked my ass off for this? And not only are we giving you permission to ask those new questions, but we're giving you permission to answer them truthfully. Maybe something you haven't had before because you were so worried about what other people wanted to hear from you. We're going to give you permission to get curious. Phase two is all about clarity. This is permission to get reacquainted with yourself. In this phase, you're not going to completely retool your life. You're not going to burn it down and start all over again. I don't want you to think that because I know a lot of women worry about that. You're going to get clear on what is important to you right now in this season of life. And that's what you're going to focus on. So in phase two, we're going to get clear on what matters. We're going to define success in this season. And we're going to start envisioning what your best life looks like right now. Not what your best life looked like in your 20s or 30s, but now at this point, looking forward, if I could wave a magic wand and tomorrow you would wake up living your best life, what does that even look like? We have to know what that looks like so we can actually get you there.
Great. What do you have?
Oh, somebody has their speaker on. If you could just go on mute, that would be great. Thank you so much. Phase three is all about courage. This is permission to choose differently. In this phase, we're going to match your behavior with who you are in this season. That's what I mean. This is what I mean by that. Once you have the clarity of knowing where you're going, then we're going to take one aligned step in that direction. Baby step. Doesn't have to be a big one, but we are going to get into action in the way that you need to be moving in the direction of your best life. It could also look like having courage to set and hold one healthy boundary. Midlife women, in my experience, are notoriously bad at boundary setting. And it's not because there's something wrong with them. It's because they haven't been taught how to do it. We're going to talk about the importance of boundaries. We're going to talk about how your courage, your safety, what you want in life requires you to set some boundaries. And we're going to teach you how to do that. Maybe courage looks like saying one, hell yes, I am doing that. That in my body, I am absolutely a hell yes. I'm moving in that direction. I don't care what anybody else thinks. Or it could also look like finally saying, no, that isn't for me anymore. That's not right. I don't want to do that. We're going to give ourselves some permission to choose differently. And phase four, the last phase, is confidence. Because once we've got the clarity to know where we're going and the courage to actually start moving in that direction, we want to give ourselves the confidence to keep moving in that direction. So this is all about permission to trust yourself again. In this phase, we're going to build confidence by keeping promises that we make to ourselves. We're going to know that whatever the question is, we have the answers inside of us. We don't have to go looking elsewhere for those answers. That's going to allow us to trust our intuition. It's also going to allow us to adjust as we need it. Yes, we made this decision. Yes, we were heading in that direction. But you know what? Now that I've got more clarity and more courage, I also have confidence to move in a different direction. You're going to have the confidence to make a different decision. And when we start doing this work, you're going to find that there are going to be some roadblocks. There are going to be some triggers. There's going to be some things that get in your way. And instead of saying, it's a random Tuesday, everything went to hell, I'll start again later. I'm going to wait it. Maybe next year is my year. You're going to have the confidence that you will be able to figure this out and you're going to keep going. You're not just going to give it up. So, if there are 4 phases in the lab, let's talk about how we're actually going to get into action. We are going to start with an 8-week live intensive. Why? Because I have been coaching women for 6 years now, and I know that what you don't need is more information. We're going to set up a coaching container where we're going to go live for probably 2 hours a week for the first 8 weeks. And I'm going to walk you through every single module in the Midlife Best Life Lab. Every single module. We're going to we're going to start with where are you right now? We're going to audit everything that got you to this point. Remember the subject of today is what got you here isn't going to get you there. We got to figure out what got you here. Then we're going to move into what does my best life look like? We're going to actually dream some dreams. And a lot of us stopped dreaming a long time ago, but we're going to get you right back there. From having that plan of that imagination, that dream, then let's figure out how to design it. Then we're going to move into a planning stage. Then how do we move from planning to actually living that, to actually becoming that? What you can accomplish in the first 7 weeks is going to blow your mind. And then the 8th week, that's just the tools to keep you going. What happens when you encounter a roadblock? I don't want you to just throw up your hands and think it's not time for me. We're gonna give you all the tools that you need to keep going. All of that is going to happen in the first 8 weeks. I want to be realistic with you though. That heavy sigh there. 8 weeks isn't enough to completely change your life. You have decades of behaviors and habits and conditioning. You are going to need some support after that 8 weeks. So, in the lab, you are going to get, after we finish the intensive, then we're going to have monthly live coaching calls. And those are going to be challenges that I'm hearing from the group that are coming up. We're going to help you navigate some real life decisions. Maybe there's a challenge that you're trying to deal with. In addition to me actually giving some additional coaching and teaching in these monthly live calls, you're actually going to have the opportunity for some hot seat coaching. You bring an issue to the group, we're going to all discuss it. It's like having your own personal board of directors to support you and help you make a decision. We're going to do that because you are going to need some help moving through this. You're going to need some support. Like I said, you can't expect to have everything different after just 8 weeks. You've got too many, you have a lifetime of conditioning. So you're going to need some support and we're going to be there when you need it. And then to layer on there, yes, we're going to go through all of the course materials in the first 8 weeks, but you have access for an entire year to all of the materials. Because, like I said, you're going to need to revisit certain pieces of this work. Maybe it's the limiting beliefs. Maybe it's the dreaming. Maybe it's what is it that success means to me? I don't know what it is, but you are going to, there are going to be times where old patterns are going to surface. Maybe you're facing a different challenge and you need to know how to handle it. So you're going to be able to go back to all of the video recordings, all of the audio recordings, all of the exercises and the workbooks. You're going to be able to do all of that because what I want you to do, what I want you to feel is well supported in this entire year that you're in the lab. The investment is less than $1,000. It's just $997. I have never offered a group coaching container this low before, by a lot. Just $997. You're going to get an entire year to step into best life you, create the best life that you that resonates in who you are now. And you're going to have support the entire year as you move along that. There are 2 pays and 3 pays also available. I want this almost to be a no-brainer for you. I want this to not be a heavy lift. I know that women sometimes feel a little guilty about spending money on themselves. They're sort of interested in coaching, but they feel like it's kind of selfish for me to take money away from the family to do this. So if you have been thinking about coaching for a while, you're curious about it, you want to do a toe dip into it, 997. And again, there are 2 pay and 3 pay available. I want to make this as accessible and easy for you as possible. But I don't want you to think that you will, like, you're somehow getting less of the information or fewer of the exercises or not as many of the frameworks. No, I have this priced because I know what the world can be like when women are firing on all cylinders, doing work that matters to them. And I feel like we all need a little bit of that in today, in the world today. So I'm trying to enlist as many women in this mission as I can. And so pricing it this way, making the investment as low as it is, it's just to get you into action, inviting you essentially to say yes to yourself. There are a couple of pay in full bonuses. So if you just write me one payment, here's what you're going to get. In addition to the intensive, everyone's getting the intensive, everyone's getting the monthly coaching calls, everyone is getting the all the course materials for a year. If you pay in full, you're also going to get a 30-minute one-on-one personalized coaching call. This is exactly the same coaching call that I use to kick off one-on-one relationships with my coaching clients. So amazing call. You can complete that anytime that you want in the year. So you can either do it right off the bat or you can save it, up to you. You are also going to get an annual subscription of the Best Life Planner. I am a planner junkie. I have tried all of them. When I couldn't find one that worked as the best tool for my clients, I created one. It's a quarterly planner, so you get 4 of them if you pay in full, and you're also going to get a private tutorial live on how to most effectively use it. And finally, you're going to get all of the entire workbook bound and sent directly to you. I have been in so many coaching containers where they don't release the materials until maybe an hour before the class or sometimes 15 minutes before the class. And then I'm at a spot where I'm scrambling to get those materials printed. You won't have to do that in the lab. I am going to make you a beautiful binder with tabs. It is fantastic. I will send it directly to you. You will have all of the exercises and materials sent directly to you. Of course, there will be places where you can insert new additional worksheets if you want to print them off, but all of that comes to you for the pay in full. Doors are going to close on February 11th at 11:59 p.m. And that's because we are going to do our kickoff call on February 12th. And then we're going to start that 8-week intensive on February 18th. I know that might sound fast, but think about it. January is done. We, at the time we get kicked off, we will be more like halfway through February. So we need to stop waiting. Let's get into action. Let's actually start living midlife as our best life, and let's stop waiting. Everything that you need for information can be found at schoolofmidlife.com/lab. And again, doors close on February 11th. So now you know everything about the lab. You know that doors close on the 11th. We're going to kick off on the 12th. We're going to start the intensive on the 18th. Now you just have to make a decision. You can decide to join the lab. You can decide to wait. Both are perfectly fine decisions. Neither is good or bad. But one of them is intentional. One of them is, I think, what you showed up here to do. You showed up to a masterclass to figure out how to fix yourself so you could feel more like yourself in midlife. So many of the decisions that we have made that got us to this point in life, we made a long time ago. We made in our 20s or 30s. What's my career? Who am I going to marry? Where am I going to live? And those decisions probably made sense at the time that we made them. They might not feel so aligned now. And unless we start making decisions based on our who we are right now in this season of life, and we don't keep relying on those old patterns and those old decisions and everything that we did when we were in our 20s and 30s or even in our 40s, if we don't start making decisions stepping into the identity of who we are right now, then we're going to continue to feel stuck. We're going to continue to feel restless. We're going to continue to feel off, like there's something that we need to fix, but there's not. I started the session today with this whole idea that midlife women don't need more information, and I absolutely stand by that. They do need a place to be able to slow down and hear themselves think and practice making decisions as who they are now. And that's what the lab does. I'm going to invite you to join us. I hope to see you there. Tomorrow is one of my favorite days. It is so inspirational. I'm going to introduce you to some incredible women who have said yes to the School of Midlife. I want to show you what is possible for you once you decide, you know what, I am going to say yes to myself. I'm going to say yes to my best life. I'm going to join the lab. I want to show you what's possible on the other side of coaching. It is so inspirational. It is the perfect way to slide into the weekend. That's what I've got for you today, my friends. We will be live tomorrow, Friday, and then Monday as well. Same time, same place. The replays are all available through February 11th. I just noticed yesterday when I was putting this together, the slides have said January 11th. So for those of you who are like, what the hell does she mean by January 11th? That was a typo. Replays available through February 11th. You can find again, you can go get those at schoolofmidlife.com/replays. You can also find out anything you want about the lab at schoolofmidlife.com/lab, or click on this banner that is on the replay page. That is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have the best day. I'll see you tomorrow.